Today, we're digging into components in bricks. Now, this is the first in a series of videos, a short series of videos. This is the fundamentals of getting started with components and understanding how to use them and how to get them set up. In future videos, we'll take a look at some more intermediate topics on components in bricks. So if you'd like to be notified when that's released, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. Okay, so components. Let's take a look at how we set one up, and then we'll move on to a more advanced version of it using the same skills we built up in the first section. So this might seem like a really basic example. We're going to work with a button. But once you understand how to set up components, you can then expand that by using the same skills. So let's start with our button. Let's add a button in. There's our button. Simple as that. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the button, we're going to right click, and we're going to say we want to set this as a component. So say save as component, and then you'll see that we get the option to give it a name. So we'll just call this basic button. You can then add a category, and if you want to add a description, you can do. This is just a simple example, so I'm not going to worry about it. Click on create. Once you click that, we're now into component mode. If we look over on the structure panel, our basic button has turned purple. And over on the section on the left-hand side under content, you can see we've got a bunch of options now with this little purple circle and a plus in the corner. This denotes that we can set a property here. We can make this an editable property with our component. The important thing to you to remember is that you don't have to set all of these up. You can choose what you want to be editable, and everything else will be left with what you set it when you're actually editing and creating the component. Just remember that. You'll also notice if we jump into the Style tab and open any of these up, you'll see we don't get those little purple circles. This is because we can only set properties in the content. So you're probably thinking, what if I want to set things like different colors and sizes and things like that? How would you get around that? Well, this is where you see with the global classes, we've got the plus there. We can set up multiple global classes, which can be selected as a property inside the component. We'll take a look at that in a future video because I think that's a little bit more nuanced than the basics I want to cover here today. But just know that you can set up global classes and you can have those selectable, and you can choose what is selectable. And you can apply those to the instance of this particular component. Just remember that one. Okay, so we've got the basics already. Before we can actually click on any of these, you'll see if we click, it just says connect property and there's no connectable property found. That's because we currently haven't set any properties up. So we need to do that first. So you'll notice that the component options at the top, we've got these four icons: our description, our category, our properties, and we can just basically go back out of this instance. So the first thing we want to do is jump into properties. This is where we can create our properties. We've got two options inside here. We can create a property and we can create a group, so we can group our properties together. So for example, you may want to group things to do with styling and content separately. You can do that here. So let's say, first of all, we're going to just choose this group, click, and we can give this a group name, and we'll just call this basic properties. Click create. We now have a group available to us. We can trash it, we can move it if we've got multiple different groups. Now if we click on the plus, we now come in and we can choose the property. So we're creating the properties that we want to associate with our button. First of all, let's choose text, because we obviously want to change where it says I am a button. We want to allow people to put content inside there. So we'll choose text. We'll change this over to button text. We can set this to be inside the basic properties group, and you can set a default. We'll set change this text. You will notice that we can pull in dynamic data if we want to. Again, we'll take a look at some of these options a little later down the line. Let's click on create, and absolutely nothing changes because we created a property, but we haven't associated that property with anything yet. Let's go and create one or two more properties and then click and connect these up to the actual component. So we're going to add a plus again. This time we're going to choose the option for a link. We'll change the name to URL. Basic properties, that's fine inside there. Select link type. This is basically the starting link type. You can still select these different options inside the property. So don't think what you choose in here is the only option you can choose. So what we're going to say is we're going to keep this simple, say internal post or page. And you can see we can set some initial values inside here should we want to. I'm going to leave them blank because we may have no content on here whatsoever, so it makes sense to leave these blank. But if you want to set up the URL, the area label, and the title and so on, you can do that. And again, dynamic data is available inside here. Let's click on create. And we now have our button text and our URL. Let's leave it at that for now, and let's see how we connect things up and what difference this actually makes to the component. So now let's come back out of this. So we go back, we click on the edit component, and this brings us back in now. So we're editing the components. And now you'll see we've got a couple of different symbols here. We've still got the plus up here, but the I am a button has changed to a link. The HTML tag has changed to a link, and so has the link type. That's because we now have properties that can be linked to those specific settings. So we know that we've set the one up for the text. So let's click on that little link. That says button text. That's fine. We'll click on that. There we go. We're not going to set the HTML tag here. We're not going to worry about style for now. We are going to come down to our link type and click, and you can see there's our URL, basic properties. We've now connected those up. So if we hit save, we've committed those changes. And you'll notice now it says change this text, which is what we placed inside our properties for our button text. If we change this and hit save, you'll see now our button updates and shows inside there. So you can still edit the properties that you configure. They're not written in stone. Okay, so let's come back out of this and go back into our instance. So now we've got our button. Let's come back out of this completely and come back into the normal editor of bricks. You'll see the purple is gone except for this basic button because that tells us that's a component. So now if we come into the components tab, there's our basic button. It tells us the number of instances we've got on our site or on our page, which is 1. So let's go and add another one of these in. Let's click and add a new basic button in. Job done. Let's select that button and you'll see there's our basic properties. If we expand this, there's the 2 properties that we configured. So now we can change this. And you'll see it updates in real time. So we've got click me, and then we can set the link that we want. So you'll see there's the link type. So we may say this is going to be a custom URL. You can click, you can drop in your link. If it's an internal poster page, you can select a poster page from here. So you can see we've got sample page, for example. Any parameters you want to set, any of these attributes you want to set. If we set initial values inside here, they would be inside here as well. So we can set them or leave them. It's up to you. So now we've created a second instance of this button. This is now all configured from here. And you'll notice the first one stays exactly the same. We're not editing both of them. We're only editing this second instance. So there's some really basic example. Let's come up and save this. Let's delete this second instance and let's come back into our button. We'll double click on this, takes us back in so we can now carry on editing this component. Let's expand this out a little bit so we've got a bit more room to work with. Okay, so we've got some basics in place, but what about things like setting the styles here? So these are governed basically by our theme style. So we've got our primary, secondary, light, dark, and so on. So if you use these and you set these up, you may want to carry on using these and make these a property that's selectable as part of your component. So we can do that. So we've got our style. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back into our properties. We're going to add another folder in, or another group, I should say, and we'll call this styling. Click create. There's our styling. So let's click on plus. We're going to select, and from there, we're going to choose the select option. Now, what this allows us to do is have a simple drop down that we can pick and choose different values from. So for this example, we may want to set things to be primary or secondary or light or dark or whatever. So we need to be able to use those. So what we're going to do is I'm going to change this over. I'm going to call this button style. Our group is going to be styling, and then we can drop in our options. Now, at the moment, we don't know what options we have. What is primary, is secondary? What are we actually going to target? We do need to do a little bit of research here to find out what we're working with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply save this. I'm going to come back in a moment. We're going to jump out of here. We're going to add a standard basic button in, select it, and you see this is set as primary. Let's just set this as secondary just so we can see there is a difference there, visual difference. We'll save this and preview it. And the reason I want to do this is because we need to know what class we're actually targeting here. So let's open up the developers panel. Let's choose the option to select items and let's choose our second button. So what we're looking for now is the class that tells it this is a secondary or primary or whatever it is. So if we come over to the button, you can see we've got bricks background secondary. So we need that. So let's just double click. Let's go and select and copy that. Let's go back. And now we know how we target this. So what we're going to do is we're going to just delete this, come in and just edit our properties. We're going to add our first option in. So our label, primary. Our value, let's paste that in. Now that says secondary, so all we need to do is change that for primary. Because all that's happening here is that bricks is basically saying bricks background and it's giving it the primary, secondary, light, dark, and so on. So there's our first one. Let's add another option in. We'll call this secondary. We'll put the value inside there. So the value in this example is just the class name that's been associated with that particular styling that's set up inside our theme styles. If you've created custom styles, you could target that directly inside here. It's as simple as that. And you can keep on doing this until your heart's content. We'll set a default in here of primary and we'll click on create. Now we're going to come back out of this instance. We're going to edit our component and our style. You can see we can now link to that. We'll connect that, choose our theme style styling, and we'll hit save, come back out of here, select our button, and you see styling is available. So we drop this down, primary is selected, choose secondary, and you see now the button updates to show us the secondary version. We're just basically targeting existing values that are set up as part of bricks. Yes, there's a little bit of research need to be done here, but you can simply make a note of this, and then you can come back to this any point and you know what you're doing. Let's try one more example. Let's just minimize this. Edit our properties, and under styling, we're going to just click the plus again. And what we're going to do is we're going to choose the option for select, and we're going to change this name to size. Group is going to be styling. And I know that we've got some basic sizes for our buttons, small, medium, large, and extra large. So what we're going to do is small. I know the value for this is SM. We're going to open up another one. We're going to call this medium. I know this is MD. Put another one up, large. And the final one is XL. So like we've done before, we can choose a default value. So for this, we'll set medium as our default value and click on create. So now we've got another value we can associate. So let's come back out of this, click on our option, come into our size, and you can see we've got small, medium, and large. So we can connect this up like we've done before. There's our size, simple as that. Hit save, come back out. Choose our styling option, and from there choose something like XL. There's an XL button, small, so you can see how this all works. So now we are controlling, or we're choosing what we can control from the various different parameters. So that's pretty cool. Let's take one more example now, and we can see how we can enable or disable to show or hide. So if you create a more complex kind of setup, there may be certain parts of that design you only want to show when the user says they want to show it. So we can use a toggle function to show and hide. So let's go and do that. Again, let's edit our component. I'm going to create a new group. We'll call this settings and click create. And now we're going to click the plus. And from here, we're going to choose the option to toggle. And we're going to say show button, select the group to be settings. And what we're going to do is we've got true and false. So you can set whether this is true or false. It's up to you. Set it on, click on create. We've now created a setting now to show and hide this. How do we do this and actually get it set up? Simple. Come back out of this, choose our options. Going to click on the little eye symbol, the hide element, and that will open up these two options for builder hide element and front end hide element. So you can choose whether this will be shown or hidden on the front end and the back end, or whichever you choose. For this example, we're going to say both. So we'll select that, show button, select that, show button, job done. Close that down, come back out, choose our settings. There we go. We can now show and hide our button. We can set the styling on here. So you get the idea how this works. Okay, let's take a more comprehensive, complex example. We've seen a single element. That's pretty cool. But what about things like cards? You may have different designs you want to set up for cards. So how would we go and map all of those different settings? Well, it's fundamentally the same. There's no real difference here. It just means there's a lot more of the actual work going on. So for example, let's open up this card. So we've got a couple of elements in here. Let's take a moment to go and see what we've got. So we've got our image, which has got a placeholder in place. We've got our overlay, our container then that has a heading, a description, and we have a text link at the bottom. So we can still approach this in the same way. There may be certain things inside here you don't want people to be able to change and edit, and other parts that you do. So just choose what you want when you're actually setting this up, and just take a little bit of time to kind of think how you're going to use everything. But like we've done before, we select our card and right click and just choose this to save as component. We'll give this a name. We'll call it sample card. Again, you can set up categories if you want to. So you may have something like components, for example. Click plus, and you can add a description in. Click create, and again, our screen now goes purple. So our sample card, you can see we've now got options here. So you can see we've got things like query loop, which is an option we can set up. So you could use these to create query loops and then make the query editable. So you may have a setup where you've got different custom post types. Could be like news, could be WooCommerce, could be things like that. And you want to use a similar design throughout, but you want to have the query loop editable. You can actually do that using components. Again, we'll come onto that in more detail in its own video. These are more about the sort of fundamentals. Okay, so let's start from the top. Let's say our image is definitely something we want to have control over. So like we've done before, let's come into the properties. Let's choose to create a group. And inside here, we're going to call this image settings. We'll click on create. So there's our first one. So now let's click on plus. Obviously, we want to be able to choose an image, so we'll choose image from the drop-down list. Image is fine here. The group, we're going to set that to image settings. You can obviously select a starting image if you want to, or you could leave what's there. Let's choose an image. Let's say this one. Click insert. Click create. Now, obviously, nothing's going to show up because, again, we haven't connected anything up yet. So let's go and do that. Let's come back out of here. Come back into our settings. Open up the option for our image. And from there, we're going to click on this little icon, choose our image, and now you can see that's pulled the placeholder in. So you can see we can also set things up like custom alt text, the caption type, and so on, whether you want to show the title and things like that. We can't set things like aspect ratio, object fit, and those kinds of things. If you want to set those up, you can control those by using a custom class. And the cool thing about this, which we will cover, like I say, in its own dedicated videos, is that you can apply multiple classes here. You're not restricted to just one. So you can set a class up for the position and the way that you want the image to be sort of scaled, other things like that. And then you have a different one for like the overlay effect and so on. So you can stack different sort of global classes on top to create whatever you kind of want here. Okay, so there's the first part. We'll leave it as something as simple as that. Let's come down. We don't want to worry about the overlay or the container info. We want to set up the heading, description, and the text link. So we'll choose our heading like we've done before. We need to set up our parameters here. So we're going to come over into our properties. We'll add a new folder. Call this card content, click on create, and now we can go and create the properties. So the first thing we want to do is the text. So it's going to be basic text. I'm going to call this heading. Our group is going to be card content. Put our default in there, click on create. We'll add another one in. This time this is going to be text again. This is going to be description. Card content is fine. Put your default in if you want to. And click on create. Now, obviously, we can carry on doing more here. We can just sort of set lots of different things up. Let's leave it as it is there. We're going to add one more group in, and we're going to call this link details and create. I'm going to add one in. What we're going to do is we're going to set this up to be text. This is going to be link text. Card content is fine. Pop in that there. And obviously, we want to add the link in as well. So we're going to set a link. Card content, fine. Link type is going to be a custom URL. We'll leave the value there and everything else. So we'll say create. So now we've created what we need. So we've got the card content that has the heading, description, link text, and link. So as you can see, I've made a mistake there. So let me just quickly show you how easy it is to change this. If we click on the edit for our link text, we can simply come in and change where this goes to, hit save. The same thing then goes for our links. We'll edit this. We'll come in and we'll change this from card content to link details, hit save, and we've just organized everything the way I should have done first of all. So there's all the settings we want. So all we need to do now, like we've done before, is come back out of this, click on our little cog icon. We'll select, first of all, our heading. We'll come over and connect up the heading text. So there's our heading. We'll go to our description. Same again, connect that up to the description. There's our text link. So we're going to set this up now as well. So we'll click on there. Text link, link details, and finally our link type. So we can click on this and link details. You can see that's all set up now for us. Hit save, and now that's connected all those elements up. So like we've done before, we can come back out of this, and all those options are available to set up. So we can change the image from here. So we change it to something completely different like this one. Give it a second, there you go. Card content, replace our heading, our description, our link details, and so on. So now if we come back out of here, and we add another component in. So let's just make sure you go container selected, click on plus, come into components. There's our sample card, add that one in. You can see that pulls in the relevant basic details. We'll select it from here. We'll come back into our image settings, choose a different image. We'll choose this one, click insert, that will update, and obviously all our text and everything is totally editable. So you can see how to get started using components inside bricks. These are the fundamentals that you need to get your head around. Once you can do this, then you can move on to the more intermediate ways of working. We will cover those in a separate video. If there are any specific topics within working with components you'd like me to cover, drop a comment down below, let me know, because I'd love to know your use cases or what you're trying to do with them so I can take a look and do some research. Because in honesty, there's not a lot of information out there about how to use components and different ways to use them beyond the basics that I've covered in this video. So I'd love to know what use cases you envisage or what you actually use them for right now. Again, drop a comment down below. As always, all applicable links are in the description down below. My name is Paul C. This is WPTuts, and until next time, take care.